Hello Transformers fans, and welcome to my video review of Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Lockdown. This figure was released in 2018 as part of the Studio Series range Wave 2. Its retail price is $19.99, but it can fluctuate looking online. As far as I know, this guy seems to be pretty rare. The day I knew that these things were starting to pop up in my area and on the message boards and such, I immediately started shopping and looking around for it. Hopping from store to store, went to 3 different Targets, 4 different Walmarts, wasn't able to find any of them, and I'm not sure if that's just because the other figures in this series are peg warmers right now, but hard to get a track of this guy for me personally, so I ended up just caving and buying it online, and it was not the cheapest one on the market, especially when you consider that these guys are deluxes, and the retail price alone is $19.99. When you find these things online, people are going to jack up the price because they know that the stocks are limited and they can only stock as the stores kind of empty out. So if you're trying to find them, I'd say keep looking. Maybe you might get lucky, but if not, online's not a bad way to go. I don't want to disclose how much I paid for him because I think it was a little too much, but I'm a huge fan of this alt mode and this character in general. So I ended up going to, pulling the trigger and getting it. So without further ado, let's take a look at the packaging first. Alright, nice. So here's the packaging. So taking a look at it immediately, it follows pretty much the standard packaging that the Studio Series seems to be going for, which is regardless of the price point, whether it's Deluxe, Leader, or Voyager, they all seem to come in this box. I'm not sure if this has anything to do with the prices on these figures going up for the MSRP and retail prices, but I would assume that's a contributing factor to Deluxes being $19.99 now, which it's pretty insane to me. I know I keep talking about this in all the video reviews I do, but I just think back to a few years ago when the first movie line and Revenge of the Fallen figures were coming out, which had, in my opinion, pretty impressive paint schemes and complex transformations for prices like half the cost of this for their deluxes. And you could get a Voyager, which was pretty insanely complicated, such as the Hunt for Decepticons Optimus Prime Voyager, for the same price as this Lockdown. Now, by no means is this a bad figure, but the prices on these things just kind of boggles me. Again, I love the series and the franchise and some of these characters in particular enough to go ahead and pay that, but it's definitely reaching a point where, for me, I very much question if I really do want to get a figure now because of these prices, but, I digress. Let's just move on to this packaging real quick. So, first impressions, I really, despite the price, I like this packaging. It has a much more Japanese action figure type of vibe to it, even with the Takara Tomy, especially accenting that. It just seems like in this day and age, packaging is kind of an afterthought, and this seems to be making more of a move towards going back to that collector-friendly style of packaging. So let me get the focus going a little better so you guys can get some more detail on how this looks. There we go. So you can see at the bottom left, a very nice render of Lockdown. This is some original art. This is not some stock photos. That's what I really also love about the Studio Series packaging. All the artwork on it and all the graphics and vector designs are, I'm pretty sure, done by either a concept artist or was, recently rendered for this specific range of figures. The only one that doesn't have this is Studio Series Jazz, who used stock photography, which is interesting. Studio Series figure number 11. You can see the source material, Transformers Age of Extinction. I'm going to say right off the bat, I was not a fan of this movie at all. It was kind of the first in the franchise, which I walked out of the theater asking myself, what the hell did I just watch? To me, that movie and Last Night were absolute abominations. Despite that, I think the character was cool, and I think the figure is cool, but I was not a fan of that movie at all. Moving down, you see Studio Series Lockdown, Decepticon logo, ages 8+. When you compare that to the people buying these things and reviewing them online, I can imagine that's kind of a pretty big gap. Another render of Lockdown looks like it's the same one, but you got a full body shot here. Autobot logo, which is weird. I don't know why that's up there considering it's a Decepticon. And on the back, you got some very basic information, some shots of the product there, transformed in robot mode. You got the vehicle. It says big screen inspired, includes a backdrop. I think that's kind of a gimmick. I don't know who actually uses those. Some people seem to be a fan. I pretty much just keep mine in the box. But we'll look at that in a second, I guess, when we get into the figure. The Transformer Age of Extinction logo up here, denoting the film that it's from. It says Lockdown. Nice, very nice shot of the Lamborghini mode there. It says Enemy Ship Infiltration. That's probably the scene being depicted in the backdrop. And no bio for the figure, but you do get a little excerpt that says Lockdown proves why he's one of the most feared bounty hunters across the galaxies. Kind of lazy, I think, on Hasbro to be doing this these days. I miss in the old days when the packaging would give you stats of the figure and have this whole long bio and kind of added character and gave some more out of film universe information for the characters and kind of fleshed them out a little bit more. But maybe I'm just being nostalgic, who knows. And on the other side, another render of Lockdown, just more zoomed into the face, Studio Series 11 Deluxe Class. So pretty standard packaging there. It's all there to cover for that, so let's get on to the figure again. Alright, so here we have Lockdown transformed into its vehicle mode. A Lamborghini Aventador, so I am not a car guy, not an extreme car guy, so bear with me as I do my best to kind of talk about this mode. First impressions though, very, very nice. I did have the Age of Extinction Lockdown that was released as part of that figure line, and this is waves and leagues beyond that figure. Not in terms of just the paint scheme, but the proportions. I think in terms of accuracy, it's a lot more accurate. I don't have that figure anymore, so unfortunately I can't do a side-by-side. We'll do one with a picture comparison soon, but as far as hand-in images, I don't have that to go by. But I do remember the windows on the original figure from the Age of Extinction weren't there for some odd reason. They were cast in blue plastic. I mean, it wasn't a bad figure, like a horrible figure, but I mean, this one just, if you were to look at them side by side, it's just a night and day difference. Not a lot of paneling, not a lot of gaps, just all flows very well. This is one of those figures that if you had them sitting on a shelf as part of like a car collection, maybe like die-cast cars or something, you'd be hard pressed to find someone who might look at it and go, hey, is that even die-cast? Is that a Transformer? So I always appreciate when these things can just hang out on a shelf and people coming over just assume it's like a model car, because then it kind of adds to that robots in disguise aspect of it. Take a look at the back there. Some nice detailing for the tail lights. Very, very nice rear window there. Again, with the paneling, not super bad. We do have a split down the middle. That might be a giveaway to some people, but if you look around the rest of it, everything kind of lines up very nicely. At the bottom side, kind of gives you a hint of what the transformation is going to be like, but I know it looks very shell former-ish, but it does have a pretty involved transformation. So, despite that, despite how it looks, it's pretty fun to transform in. I really do enjoy toying with this one when I'm bored. So, without further ado, let's get some side-by-side comparisons of this guy next to the actual Lamborghini Aventador and draw some comparisons. And here we have Lockdown transformed and ready to go for our comparison. So let's get that image pulled up. As you can see, very, very faithful to the actual automobile on which he is based. Now, I know this picture is of a white Lamborghini, so that's the only one I could find with no transparent background, but that's okay. It gives you an idea of the vehicle in the real world that he's based off of, which is a Lamborghini Aventador. And right off the bat, you can see the proportions on this vehicle are pretty faithful. I'd say almost dead on. Not even almost. I'd say it's dead on to the real thing. Very, very nice silhouette all around. We've gotten most of the trademark components of the car recreated in plastic. Nice little Lamborghini insignia sort of replication here. It's not exactly 100%, but at this scale, what do you expect? Nice headlights cast in plastic here, both sides. No paint for that. It's a nice clear plastic. Clear windows, no opaque here. You can't see through and kind of see some of the car bits, but it's dark enough that most people probably wouldn't notice. Hubcaps, very nice. Lockdown did have orange painted brake calipers, so having a little bit of orange or yellow in there might have been cool to really sell the realistic aspect of it, but I'm not complaining. I'm very happy with what they've done. Side view mirrors, very nice. Not fragile at all. Sometimes with these side view mirrors, you can find that they can be a little delicate when you're transforming them back and forth. So very solid piece here, especially because these side view mirrors are pretty integral part in transforming the figure, especially doing the arms. So not bad at all. Now let's see if we can get this guy in some more views. So here's view number 2. I was actually able to find a carbon, is what they call the paint scheme of the Lamborghini that Lockdown was. Paint scheme to give you guys a better comparison. So you can see here what I was talking about with that brake caliper, that orange section there, and a little bit of orange highlight for that collision light on the side. So, despite those little details, I'd say, it's a 9 out of 10 for me in terms of how great this vehicle mode looks. Again, I don't have any images for the rear, but that's how the backside looks. Kind of a side silhouette there. And then from the top, so overall very faithful. Also does roll quite nicely for play value if you're getting this for your kids. And before I get this guy transformed up, I did want to talk a second about the accessories he comes with. So the 2 accessories he comes with are his hook, folded up in this scene here, and the blade / knife / gun thing that he used in the movie. I just wanted to show that they can be stored in vehicle mode. I think it looks silly personally, but we'll just do it for the sake of demonstration here. Let's get this mounted on. So there's some rectangular holes on the side of the vehicle and rectangular peg on the side of the accessory that sort of just tab into place. The same thing on the other side. I'm pretty sure you can decide which side you want either of these accessories placed, so kind of however you see fit. I think it looks a little silly, especially this hook, considering it doesn't have any practical purpose in vehicle mode. Maybe he's like trying to be like, hey, come here, like that type of thing, but yeah, it just takes away from the overall look. This one might be not too bad. Kind of imagine like a gun transformed out the side as he's pursuing somebody, maybe shooting them, I don't know. But yeah, just figure I'd demonstrate. I'd rather much prefer, this feature not be there, because if it weren't, it would make the overall silhouette of the vehicle more streamlined, because they could fill in these gaps. They're not too detracting, but I think it would look better if the sides were more flush. But that's that. So I'm gonna get this guy transformed into robot mode, and we'll chat about that. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, here we have Lockdown transformed into his robot mode. And just like the vehicle mode, I am a pretty big fan of the way this looks, especially from the front. Very imposing silhouette, a lot beefier proportions than the deluxe class that came before it, and just overall a massive, massive improvement over that figure. So let's just get into some of the details that they've put into this figure, starting with the paint apps. Very, very nice paint apps all around. It's cast predominantly in this dark gray. A lot of the vehicle mode metallic reflective silver does show up in the bicep area, the back of the forearms, and they use some of that same paint on the chest here. Some very nice gold metallic detailing here, and some sparse dark blue applications for the chest. This is a faux chest. It's not real. It doesn't transform from the car parts, but I would prefer that to make it look more realistic to the actual movie character, to have it that way than try to transform it out of car parts like the old figure did and have it look, it wasn't terrible, but it looked nothing like the movie did. Very, very nice detailing with the paint on these missile pods / ammo canisters here on the shoulder. Amazingly lifelike head sculpt here. Some very, very nice green paint applications for the eyes. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. But general impressions are, they're pushing the score up for this guy for me. So with that said, let's get the movie render side by side, and we can do a comparison of those two. Now I tried to get this guy in the best pose as I could to kind of faithfully replicate how this render looks. but it's limited with the articulation that it has, so bear with me. Despite that, though, looking back at the details I just mentioned, they've captured a lot of it on here. Notably, again, that face sculpt. It's just very lifelike. Personally, I'm not a fan of the lifelike look of Lockdown's skeletal face. I like the blockier designs, but in terms of them recreating what the character was, they've just hit it out of the park. Overall, the proportions aren't bad. The arms are a lot more beefy than the old spindly arm deluxe was, and most of the figure silhouette does match the figure. Now, some constraints that they had to do with this figure, obviously on the budget that they had and the size of it and all of the engineering that goes behind these things, it's not perfect. Notably, that is being that the silhouette of the figure looks great, frontal aspect wise, but you turn it to the side and that kind of starts to diminish. You can see that the arms are really just the door panels that they've been molded out of. So this really doesn't compress in any way, which I wish it did. You can notice this backpack kind of hanging off the back, which isn't the worst. Definitely it's not as bad in hand as it is in images and videos, but it is pretty noticeable, and they did their best to make it compress as best they could. Backpacks are never great, but as far as they go, it's not the worst. And again, when you have it in hand, it's really not that bad. Swinging around to the back, you can kind of see what I mean about that profile. It's really got that tortoise shell look from the back. More car parts kind of just hanging off. But that's okay, because most people that collect this are really going to display this from the front. And that's where this figure really shines in terms of silhouette and angles. This is kind of the way you want your Lockdown to look deluxe-wise. We'll get this guy pulled up next to the Age of Extinction deluxe class next and just kind of laugh at how bad that was. So side by side next to the Age of Extinction deluxe, you can just see how leagues apart these two things are, and it's almost laughable in comparison how bad that last figure was in terms of accuracy. Not bad in terms of a figure. It definitely was a fun just toy in general to kind of toy around with and transform back and forth and have on a shelf, but in terms of representing what Lockdown was, this thing looks nothing like Lockdown. I mean, look at the color scheme to begin with. It's this beige, dark beige, brown almost color. The proportions are absolutely destroyed. He's got this really wide chest. The head sculpt doesn't even really look like Lockdown to me. And then the paint scheme's just all over the place. The arms are gray, and then it just kind of fades to, or what's the word? Just translates over to the more beige for the upper bicep. The chest, it's not anything close to the movie design. It does try to go for that split Lamborghini logo on the chest, but it doesn't work. Whereas this guy, on the other hand, very, very faithful. And, I mean, it's just Lockdown. You look at it and you know it's Lockdown. The other guy, you look at it and you're like, maybe it's Lockdown? If it's like, I don't know, from a comic iteration or something, but as far as the movie goes, not at all. So if you're a collector and you're a fan of this guy, or you're a fan of the series, or a fan of the movie, you want to go for this deluxe. The other guy is pretty cheap online. If you want to have both, it probably wouldn't break the bank. I've seen him go for as cheap as $10 on eBay. If you just want to have both for your collection, maybe go for it. I do appreciate that the other Lockdown came with a really cool accessory, which was the gun face attachment, and I think with some modification you might be able to make it work for the Studio Series line. But other than that, I don't see any reason to pick this guy over the Studio Series Deluxe. Next, let's take a look at the accessories in robot mode. So we looked at the claw arm. Basically how this thing works is it just unfolds and extends into this hook arm, which fits in with a peg onto the hand. Sort of gives the illusion and impression that the hand has transformed into the hook arm. I know this was more prevalent in the animated show that this guy's based off of. He didn't use it in the movie too much. He used it a couple times, once to like hook Optimus and another time to climb this little silo. I'm not personally a fan of the hook arm, but I can see why it's a pivotal accessory. I'm glad they included it for the fans that really love the other Lockdown from the animated series. I'm pretty sure you can take this thing off too, and it can hook into the arm as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let's try that out with that rectangle peg that's used in the vehicle mode. Yeah, that way you can have his hand and his hook arm, but I'm pretty sure in robot mode you're meant to plug it in so it looks like his hand transformed into the accessory altogether. Next up, we've got the gun sword slash dagger slash, I think maybe spark extractor. I don't know. I don't think this is a spark extractor that he used in the movie, but you can pretend, I guess. Very sparse paint applications on it, but wouldn't be too hard to do if you had a brush and some enamel paints. This thing can also hook in to the side of the arm, like so. Come on now. Kind of mounts on like that. Or you can also take it and place it in his hand like a knife, but I think that looks kind of funny, like he's gonna cut you up and you want money or something. So yeah, those are the two accessories he comes with. I really do wish he came with the gun face, but I think at that point the plastic count would be reaching Voyager territory. So you pick and choose your battles. I might attempt to get one of the Age of Extinction lockdowns and get that gun accessory and mount it on him, just to see if that works, but it might be a project for another day. Next, I also wish for the head sculpt. You know what? We didn't take a closer look at the head sculpt, so let's do that now. Let's get the autofocus going here. Let's get up close and personal there. And there you can see what I mean by how detailed that head sculpt looks. That is just absolutely phenomenal. And while I'm this close, let's just take a close look overall at these details. You got the munitions pod shoulders, the faux chest, the split Lamborghini hood, the blue lights for the headlights there. There's some of that silver paint from the car mode showing in the bicep, crotch area, gold applications. Nice little tinge of paint here and there to really make this guy pop. On the topic of the head, I wish he did have his visor that could flip down to recreate the mask that he wore in the movie so often. But still nice head sculpt overall. And they are releasing a remold of this figure. Forget the name of it, but that will come with the mask down. So if you collect that figure, you'd be able to swap the heads out. I have a feeling Hasbro did that for a reason, but still, can't complain. Alright, let's go on to the final thoughts of this figure. So, closing comments for this guy. I am a big fan. I knew I was going to like it originally when I ordered it online, and it was a bit of a steep price that I paid for it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll check it out and return it if I don't like it that much. But looking back on it, it kind of grew on me. It's really fun to transform back and forth. The overall proportions look good. It's not a complete abomination like the prior deluxe was, and it's just an intimidating figure. Size isn't too bad. I know to do a size comparison on this. I apologize for that because most of my figures are in storage right now, but just take my word for it. The size is nice for a deluxe. It doesn't quite match up with the size of Optimus, the Voyagers, the various ones have made of him, but it's closer in terms of overall bulkiness than the last figure was. And it would look nice next to a Voyager Optimus regardless, as well as a Ratchet and a few other characters that he interacted with in the film. I would recommend it. If I had to give it a score out of 5, it's definitely sitting at maybe like a 4.4 for me out of 5. Just a couple of those accessories would be nice, and a few small transformation changes, like the door folding away on the side here, would have made this almost perfect figure. But as it sits, it's not anywhere near bad or remotely terrible that some people may be giving this line for having. I know some people aren't a fan of the Studio Series lines because of the prices, but this one I feel like is more justified than others. overall, very nice figure. I'd recommend it if you can find it for cheap or you can find it at retail. Pick it up. I wouldn't spend more than $30 though. I think that's kind of pushing it. Any more than that, and you really gotta love the character or be a fan, or maybe get it now before this series is discontinued and the prices start skyrocketing on eBay or secondhand forums. So that concludes my review of the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Lockdown. Let me know if you have any questions or you just want to have a discussion about the figure in the comments below. And I'll bring you guys some more videos soon. And until next time.